Good morning. Welcome to Parse Developer Day. You know, I'm sure we can all think of experiences we've had where developing something was just way harder than it needed to be. And I want to kick off today by telling one of my own stories like this from early Facebook. When we first moved out to Palo Alto to build out Facebook, all I had was about $8,000 that my parents had saved away for college. And you know, unfortunately, there was no Parse back then. So in addition to getting a car to transport us around Palo Alto, we also needed to get something that could lug around servers to the data center. And we also needed to buy a router, all on the $8,000 that we had. Now, you know, a new router costs way more than that. It costs tens of thousands of dollars. So someone came up with this brilliant idea of, let's buy a used router on eBay. You know, fortunately, it worked. And we kind of risked all of Facebook on that, but it worked. And for the car, we bought this, this old '94 Ford Explorer from Craigslist that I'm pretty sure was stolen at some point in its history, because you could just turn the ignition without a key in it, and it would go on. And the volume, it only went up. So, I mean, you could turn the volume up, but if you wanted to turn the volume down, you had to actually pull out the fuse box. So, anyhow, it all worked out. We ended up managing all our own servers and, you know, and managing all our own code after that. But my reflection in retrospect is, man, I wish Parse were around back then. So, you know, at Facebook, what we're trying to do with our platform is build tools that help you do two things: build and grow your apps. Now, a lot of people think about Facebook platform as a way to get distribution for apps that you've built, but we want to help you do even more than that. We want to make it simple to build great apps that have identity, friends, and all the stuff that you want built in really easily. And that's why we love Parse. Parse makes it easy to build these kinds of great apps and eliminates all of the pain that I'm sure we'll talk about today. It makes it so that you can focus on what you love and what you should be doing, building great experiences, and not have to focus on managing servers, managing connections to other services, building out the ways to do push notifications, and a lot of things like this. So today, we're going to talk about making it even easier to build great apps. And to do that, I'd like to hand it off to the Parse CEO, Ilya Suchar.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be kicking off the very first Parse Developer Day of hopefully many more to come. It wasn't too long ago that our conferences looked like this. We'd buy some beer, we'd buy some pizza, we'd put together some amazing decor. I like to think that that banner zip-tied to a water line is kind of like this. But we had a great time. We had our community from San Francisco, our users, our customers, our partners join us, and we shared stories, had some beers, and learned about what people really wanted from us, what was working, what wasn't. But today's even better. Today's all about bringing together our global community to learn about Parse, to hear about the future of Parse, and to really talk about the future of mobile computing and what it takes to build great apps. We've got a great audience here today. We've got over 600 folks in attendance from 17 different countries, over 5 continents. That's amazing. I think our last conferences were mostly like a 6-block radius of San Francisco, folks in downtown San Francisco. We've got people from Italy, Australia, India, China, people even from Canada somehow made it down here. So we're really excited to have you all here. We also have our new Facebook family joining us. They've welcomed us with open hands, have really helped us put together this amazing conference, which we really couldn't have done as a small startup. So, on the topic of learning and education, I'm really excited that today is also about doing good for the community. Today's proceeds from all of your ticket sales, all of that money that you guys spent to get here, are actually going for a good cause. We're sending all the money to an organization called Code Now. Code Now is a fantastic nonprofit that makes it, that holds classes for underrepresented high schoolers to learn how to learn a program. And that's really in line with what we want to do with Parse. Parse is all about making it easier to build apps. But to do that, you have to learn how to program in the first place. And the world needs more programmers so that the next economy, the future, really benefits from the scale that you can achieve writing code. So I'm really excited about that. We're putting together over $20,000 for them, and they're going to start having classes right in our backyard for the very first time. So I'm excited to do that for them, and I think you should all feel proud that your money's going to a good cause in addition to having a good time today. So to get started and to explain what Parse is all about, I want to tell you the story of how I came to the idea of Parse and how this company kind of got going. It was the beginning of 2011, and if you all remember, you guys were all probably reading TechCrunch at the time, the world was all about social, local, mobile. That was the big hot thing. And brilliantly, I decided that I would quit my job and build the next great social, local, mobile app. Not such a great idea in retrospect, but it turned into a good thing. So I was learning how to do iOS, how to do Android. I was a back-end guy. I was mostly comfortable with tweaking databases, and I had to get comfortable tweaking gradients and UI toolbars and all that good stuff. And so I was building apps and iterating, getting stuff to the App Store, and I started to focus on this one app called Posse. It's this painfully brown-looking thing that you see on the screen here. You can tell that early in 2011, I had no design sense, and arguably, James, my co-founder, has really made Parse actually look good over anyone else. And so I was working on this app, and it was really painful. I expected to be spending my time on the interesting parts. I expected to spend my time on the functionality. The idea was that you'd log in, and you'd be able to share your location with your friends for like some short period of time privately. If you're going to a restaurant, you could see if your buddy's like actually lagging and not going to be on time. If you're on a road trip, you could see if your mom got pulled over and you have to like hang back and wait for her to like bail her out of jail or whatnot. It was a pretty neat app. And so I expected to be spending my time on that functionality. I expected to be spending my time on figuring out how to get users, on figuring out how to build a good map interface, on figuring out how to make the invite flow work correctly and entice people to bring their friends into the app. But I was actually spending my time on stuff that I knew how to do, the boring stuff. I knew how to set up user accounts. I knew how to serialize data to and from the devices. I knew how to represent dates in JSON. I knew how to send push notifications. But why was I spending so much time on all this stuff? It didn't make any sense. I couldn't really get to the crux of the actual application because I was stuck in the table stakes, under the hood functionality that every app has. Every app has this set of functionality. It lets you log in, lets you store data, lets you receive push notifications, lets you tie things to Facebook or Twitter, social networks. And why was I spending so much time? It was 2011 at the time. It seemed like the world should have advanced beyond that point. So it felt like building an app in 2011 was like paperwork. It was all this stuff that you had to do. It was like going to the DMV. Like, you want your license, but you don't want to stand in line. You don't want to fill out these forms. You just want to go out there and drive. And really, you're spending most of your time in line at the DMV. And so what I realized was I could probably serve the world better replacing the DMV, not literally, than building social, local, mobile apps. And so that's where the idea for Parse came from. It was, the idea is to fight this battle against complexity that had really exploded in the mobile age, right? Programming is all about this trade-off between abstraction and complexity. And mobile had just blown it out of the water. You have to think about all of these things. You have to think about how you represent data between the different platforms. You have to think about fragmentation. You have to think about deploying only through the App Store. You can't really iterate as quickly as you could in the web. And there were no platforms or tools that made it really easy to get your app done. So in the maze from an idea to success in the market, there's this sort of lots of little turns and dead ends that have nothing to do with the value of what you actually want to get done, what is actually going to make you successful in the market, and what is going to differentiate you from other apps. So Parse is all about fighting that complexity and making the maze a lot simpler. We're not going to get you from A to B and idea to riches right away. But what we are going to do is abstract away all of the painful stuff that you really shouldn't have to think about so that you can focus on the important parts of your app, on the parts that really matter, and the parts that are unique. So the more time you spend on that, the more likely you are to actually be successful. You're not going to have a whole team figuring out how to make your app work offline. Every app needs to do that. So we might as well leave it to Parse to do that. So we started off in the summer of 2011. And we started with a kernel of an idea. The very first iteration of what we put out there was this SDK for iOS that let you store and retrieve unstructured data, basically key value pairs. And pretty simple, right? You imagine that folks wouldn't really rave and love that, but they actually did. And the insight is that iOS developers really don't like leaving their environment. They went through the pain of learning Xcode. They went through the pain of getting really good at Objective-C and working on the gradients on their UI toolbars. Who wants to go from that to PHP or Ruby or some other language just to store and retrieve data? So the kernel that we started with, my slides seem to be changing without me. The kernel that we started with turned into a large suite of products that you see behind me. So we have 5 big products. The first one is Parse Data. The idea here is that we give you an SDK that drops into whatever native environment that you have. So if you're building for iOS, it'll drop into Xcode. If you're building for Android, it'll drop into Eclipse or IntelliJ. If you're building for Windows Phone, Visual Studio, with the web, whatever you're using, you get the picture. And the idea is that you stay in your own environment and you get out of the box rich data storage. You can store and retrieve location data. You can store and retrieve user data. You can store and retrieve any kind of data without thinking about servers, databases, scaling, serialization, synchronization, offline modes, representing the data model in the same way between iOS and Android and Windows Phone, all this painful stuff. You stick to what you know, whether it's iOS, Android, Windows Phone, or the web, and we take care of the back-end stuff. The next piece is Parse Push. Push notifications are obviously everything that buzzes your pocket, whether it's a comment on a photo that you need to know about or a new email. Sort of a ubiquitous thing in mobile, but it didn't exist pre-mobile, right? There wasn't any concept of push in the web days. So every company that wants to be successful on mobile needs infrastructure to do push notifications. They needed to do it at scale, they need to do it flexibly, and they need to do it for a bunch of different platforms. And so why rebuild this all yourself? Parse Push makes it really easy to send a push notification and to think of your users as users and not the actual devices that they're holding in their pockets. So when you send a push notification, you can do something like push to everyone in this room who's over the age of 21, who wants to go to our party tonight, and you don't have to think about what's in their pocket. Is it an Android? Is it a Galaxy Android? Is it an iOS 4? Whatever it is, we'll take care of it. On the same note, Parse Social makes it dead simple to add identity to your app. So every app needs to have a login screen. It needs to take your username and password. It needs to potentially take your Facebook or your Twitter, whatever it might be. Usually apps need to know who you are. And that's not something that you're going to differentiate on. No one out there is going to be like, hey, man, you got to download this app. It did a really good job storing my password securely. It's awesome. It's just not going to happen, right? Everyone has it. You either have it or you don't. In the best case, people see your login screen exactly once, and then they move on with their lives using your app. In a bad case, you mess something up. Why go through that pain? Parse Social takes care of that. Parse Hosting is a similar environment for the web. All of these principles apply to the web. Why does someone building great websites in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript need to figure out how to serialize their data down to the database? Why do they need to make that efficient? You should really just think about things at a higher level of abstraction. So Parse Hosting does that for the web. Lastly, Cloud Code. Cloud Code lets you do everything that we didn't think of. So all of these things that I just talked about, they might get you 80 or 90% of the way. You'll get a pretty full-fledged app. But when your game wants to send your user an email when they hit 10,000 gold coins or something, give them a nice little trophy in their email, we're not going to have a feature for that. But it should be dead simple to do that. So just a few lines of JavaScript will give you the functionality that you need on our runtime environment to send them an email, to integrate with other services, to do some computation, whatever it might be. You don't need to learn a brand new language. You don't need to understand servers. You don't need to understand scaling. You just take care of what you need to get done and move on with your life. All of this is incredibly powerful because we do this across a variety of environments. So whether you're building an Android app or a Windows Phone app or an iOS app or a web app, you get the same set of APIs. They all feel native, but they're consistent between all the different platforms. So when it's time to move your Android app to iOS, you don't have to think about the server side and representing your data model correctly. You should be thinking about the important stuff, like what do you do when there's no hardware back button? That's kind of a big deal. You should think about that. And you should worry about that kind of issue and not the server side stuff. So that's where we've gotten with our product up until now. Our user base also started from very humble beginnings in the summer of 2011. We had an interesting approach to motivating ourselves. We would come into the office every day and write down on the whiteboard exactly how many apps were using us. There's a big fat 0 on the whiteboard for many weeks. I have to admit, this is a dramatic reenactment. I'm kind of smiling in this photo. I don't usually smile at a big fat 0. But yeah, we would come into the office and we would draw this big fat 0. Eventually, it turned into a big fat 1, and then a 10 or 100 or 1,000. And over the course of the summer, and then over the course of 2 years from 2011 up until today, our numbers got way too large to be put onto a whiteboard. So I'm really proud of the team. We're at a point where we're really at scale and hitting our stride in terms of the number of applications on the platform. At this point, we're doing billions of API requests, billions of push notifications. This is over 100,000 apps that are doing all this traffic. We have hundreds of millions of devices that have talked to the Parse platform and have these apps installed on their phones. So it's really exciting. What's even more exciting is just the breadth and variety of applications that we see on Parse. We have everything from gaming studios to large corporations to big brands to lots of little startups to mom and pop shops. We've got all kinds of folks. And they're actually trusting us with all of their data. And so we're very thankful that folks have really taken to us and trusted us, because we know it's important to be powering your entire back end for your app. It's a real big thing to give that over to someone at a time when we were a startup. Now we're part of a larger company, so I'm hoping that folks are more comfortable. But we have people like Showtime, eBay, Warner Brothers, AMC, Zynga using Parse. We're really excited to have this sort of traction and hoping it keeps growing from there. Today, we're going to have a little treat. We're going to have 3 of our customers, some of our earliest customers actually, on stage with Doug Purdy from Facebook to talk about how they discovered Parse, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what they'd like to see us do forward, whatever it might be. It'll be an exciting talk. So the first one will be Alex from Sequence. He built the Food Network app. This is a great app that is their second screen experience. The Food Network lets you keep track of your favorite chefs, favorite your favorite restaurants, figure out the TV schedule for your shows, that kind of thing. So I'm excited to have Alex. He's actually our very earliest adopter for an actual serious brand. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. We also have Jeff from Over. And Over is a really great app. It's a really great example of a small startup that's leveraged Parse to really accelerate their product development and also to scale. So this summer, they went from just a small app to actually one of the top apps in the App Store. They were hitting the #1 spot in the free rankings on the App Store. They were beating Instagram and Snapchat on the photo rankings and have just exploded. And I think they have some good stories about how Parse helped them scale and also how Parse helped them iterate into a great product that people have taken to. We also have Dominique from IDEO, the legendary design firm that have built a bunch of products that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. He's going to talk about building apps for Sesame Street. So this app, Elmo Calls, is fantastic. It lets you pick a little topic like brushing your teeth, and then Elmo video call your kid and teach them how to brush their teeth. It's pretty neat. And so I'm excited that Parse is, again, part of some educational aspect of the world. And Dominique has some great stories about picking up Parse, using it at IDEO, and actually building a series of apps that are fairly similar over and over again, leveraging the platform of Parse. So that's where we are today. We've clearly gone a long way from the big fat 0 on the whiteboard, from the pretty crappy looking banner on the water pipe. We've got a great conference here today. we're here to announce some good stuff as well. I hope you're all excited about that. The idea behind our product announcements are similar to how we've done products in general. We never had a really strict roadmap. What we did is we just talked to people, and we took the requests, and we tallied them up, and we sorted them by frequency, and then we built what people wanted. And we did that over and over and over again for years, and we're still doing that. So ever since we got to Menlo Park, we've been hard at work doing the same old thing, not just eating ice cream, enjoying the sunshine, riding the free bikes. We've done some of that, but mostly heads down working on stuff. So I'm excited to share that new stuff today. The very first thing I've got for you is a set of new cloud modules. For those of you who aren't familiar, cloud modules are the things that let you integrate with our partners, like take a credit card with Stripe, or send an email with Mailgun, or send an SMS with Twilio. And they're also things that let you get pieces of work out of the way on the back end. So the very first thing that we're sharing today is the new user session module. This is an example of the code that it takes to bring all of the power of Parse Social to our web environment. So you take a couple of lines of code, you take in a username and password, and there you have it. We'll take care of your session, your cookies, all the browser compatibility. You can trust us to manage all of your user state just like you do in Parse Social on mobile. Now we're at parity on the web side. The image module, something that people have been asking us for over and over and over again. The idea here is that it's very easy to take in images from a Parse-powered app, whether it's from the camera roll or it's a profile picture from a social network. But you usually want to do something with it, right? Like you want to resize it, you want to crop it, you want to change the format, might want to tint it, whatever it might be. This makes it really dead simple to do all that in the Parse Cloud Code environment with just a few lines of code. So if you look at this example right here, this is a few lines of code. It could be one line of code if you're not very strict about your style. And this resizes your image to 64 by 64. Really dead simple. You don't have to set anything up. You don't have to use another service. You don't have to set up another server. So I'm really excited about that. The next thing I have for you is along the lines of being everywhere. So being everywhere for us means being on all the major platforms. It means being on iOS. It means being on Android. It means keeping up with all the versions there. But it also means being in all the places that people are building cross-platform apps. People are using other companies to accelerate their product development. In many cases, it's to get the benefits of compiling down to a variety of platforms. In other cases, it's to get a higher level of abstraction on the UI, whatever it might be. So today, I'm excited to announce a really deep partnership with Unity. We're excited to bring Parse to the Unity environment. They've got 2 million developers building great games on top of their game engine. So in the same way that we don't make you think about boring stuff like synchronization and serialization and databases and scaling, whatnot, Unity doesn't make you think about the rendering and the lighting and the 3D engine. You get to build a great game and just get on with your life. And so we're excited to bring the power of the two together. Here's what the code looks like. If this isn't exciting looking, that's the point. It's just regular C# code, and it works just like you would build a Windows Phone app or a Windows 8 app. It works just like you would build any other .NET app. That's the idea. It's really that simple. This is the IDE. You don't have to leave your environment that you're used to. You don't have to leave their amazing tools chain for building a great game. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that I see even more games. We have a lot of great games on Parse, and we're excited to see the type of games that Unity provides, 3D, immersive, cross-platform, web, iOS, and Android. So the next thing I have for you is along the lines of bringing more power to Parse, right? The idea to expanding Parse and all the things you can do with it is to make it more powerful. We've made it really simple, but it has to get more and more powerful over time. And we have to do that in a way that we don't lose the sort of crux and the soul of Parse, which is we don't want to reinvent that DMV line for you. Like, we don't want to put those barriers up and have you, trudge through and wait to get to your license. We want you to get things done quickly. So one thing that we've been missing is the ability to do arbitrary computation on Parse. We have cloud code, so you can attach some sort of snippets of JavaScript to any of the requests and hooks and all these things. But you couldn't just run arbitrary code on our servers. Today, you can. So we're introducing background jobs. So you can write little snippets of JavaScript at any time and to get anything you want done. So for example, here's all it takes to email all of the inactive users in your database. A few lines of code to find them, and then a few lines of code to email them, and then a few point and clicks to schedule this job and let it run diligently in the background while you get on with your life. You don't have to wake up in the middle of the night to check your pager. You don't have to scale it up as the user amount grows. You just let it go, and we'll take care of it all. So I'm excited to bring that to Parse and to let you stay in Parse when you need to get more and more done with your applications. And lastly, we have analytics for you. Parse has always been about building your applications. Applications need to get built, but they also need to get grown and tended to. That's only half the battle, is getting it out to market. You want to actually understand what's going on in your app. You want to understand what's working. You want to understand what your users are doing. So I'm excited to announce Parse Analytics. This is a great new direction for us. It's a big product. It lets you do any kind of analysis that you like. You can send us arbitrary data. Then you can slice and dice it. You can understand what versions of your app are working, whether iOS is beating out Android, whether certain demographics are spending more money, whatever it is. And the idea here is that you could always do this with a third-party service. You can do it yourself even on Parse. You can dump the data into Parse and then dump it out and use something like Excel. But that kind of sucks. That feels like the DMV, right? Like you want to do it all in one place, and you want it to be magical. So here, we give it to you all in one place. We infer a bunch of data. We know how your users are logging in. We know which of your database tables are growing. So you get a lot of functionality out of the box. Here's the code example. Just a few lines of code. You give us the dimensions that you care about, say a price range, a customer type, an age, and then you send it out. And then you get a beautiful dashboard where you can slice and dice all of your data. You can drill down. You can save these graphs for later. And you can watch your app grow and succeed in the market. You can tweak it to get it to where it needs to be. So I'm really excited about that. In summary, we have two big new products, Parse Analytics and Cloud Jobs, which will let you run arbitrary code on the server, and Parse Analytics, which will let you understand what's going on with your application and make it grow into success. So thank you. Excited to announce all that. We also have something special just for today. We have two cool little apps that you can use to keep track of the tracks and the sessions and get to where you need to be today. One's for iOS, one's for Android. You can download them right now in the App Store and Google Play, respectively. And we encourage you to check these out so you don't have to memorize the schedule, so I don't have to ramble on about it, and so that you can actually see what it's like to build a Parse app. We're going to open source it so you can use it for your own conference, or you can use it to just see what it's like to build a really simple, elegant app. So these are great. I'm really excited to show these to you. They're fun to use, and you can get them right now on the App Store. So just to recap, I will tell you a little bit about the schedule. I'm going to get off stage and welcome my co-founders to talk about various things. Then we'll have Doug with the customers to talk about what it's like to use Parse and why you might want to use it. Then we'll break for lunch. And then we'll have 3 great educational tracks for everyone to learn about Parse. So the beginner track for those of you who are new to Parse, who need to understand what it's all about and how to get started from 0 to 60. The advanced track for those of you who want to increase your usage of Parse, go deeper on the various features that you already use, or to understand a little bit more about the new stuff that I just announced. Christine will be talking about analytics. Brian Klimt will be talking about the new cloud modules in his advanced cloud code talk. It's going to be great, so I encourage you to see all the sessions that you like. We've also got the partner track for those of you who need to understand how it is you integrate all this other functionality that you need, right? Your app needs to send SMSs. It needs to send emails. It needs to take payments. So we've got great partners like Microsoft, Stripe, Twilio on hand to talk about their products and how they fit into our ecosystem so that you can build apps just in one place, a one-stop shop for building mobile apps. So with that, thank you. I'm excited to bring up James, my co-founder, our design genius, to talk about Parses Everywhere. Thank you.